Yo? We back at it. It's another Wednesday, another session of Network is My Net Worth. It's your boy Rel Purnell. You see Jay Hall over here. And in the middle, we got my guy from a long time. We about, what, a little over a decade in. Yeah, Larry Spriggs, man. Look, I definitely appreciate you for accepting the invite, for coming on the show. To really talk about entrepreneurship, talk about your business a little bit, and also for you to give out some tips, man, because you've been in the game as a entrepreneur business owner for quite a while, man. So I ain't gonna belabor this. Let's kick it off. Let the folks know who you are and where you're from.
My name's Larry Spriggs. I'm originally from a small county, Calvert County, Maryland. Grew up and spent most of my life in Glen Burnie. I've been in the car since I was in high school, man. So that has kind of like been the path of my life, just all car stuff.
Got it. And for those who aren't familiar with who you are and what you do, let everybody know what's the industry that you're currently in, and also what got you started in the industry.
Yeah, so I'm currently in the aftermarket wheel and tire industry. I don't know, like I said, I've always was in the car since I've been in high school, and after college, after leaving college, I kind of like just said, hey, man, I'm just running with this. So I got my own automotive shop. I started my own wheel line at one point, and now I'm working on something bigger, a startup in the automotive space as well.
Man, great stuff. From day one of getting into the industry, because your first job that you worked, as an adult, it wasn't in the automotive industry, correct?
No, heck no.
Right. So you made the switch. Talk a little bit about, your start of, your career as an adult, wanting to get into the automotive industry, and how did you eventually lead up, and a little bit about the process of becoming a business owner.
Yeah, so I was working at Comcast when I first started getting the idea of opening up my own shop. And I always tell the stories, like I literally just was on the phone with somebody and was like, hey, I'm about to open my shop. And they laughed at me. And that just was like fuel to the fire. And I knew I needed to work at a shop called Rim Source. Well, we all know Rim Source in Baltimore, in order to even be able to open up my own shop. So I ended up leaving my job or getting fired. I don't even remember what happened anymore from Comcast. And I just started working at shops for free and basically just working my way up to being noticed by the people at Rim Source. It benefited me because I was in the car club with one of the guys that worked there. And one day I just got the phone call basically telling me to come to work. Was at Rim Source for 3 years before I knew it was my time. I just knew it was time for me to get out and really start my own thing. And I just jumped out there, found a shop, which is a whole nother nightmare of a story of getting there, and just started my shop up.
Yeah, for sure. AJ, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so to kind of sort of take you back to my introduction to you, Larry. So when I was doing shows with Rel, we were coming to the source, and he was like, man, they got this guy there, he's a little younger than us, but he gonna be a problem. Like, they don't really see it in him. He real laid back, he about his business. But he gonna make a lot of noise, and he gonna do it fast. And, I come in, I meet you, and I already automatically see the vision. And we used to have all of these off the record private conversations of like, seeing where he's going to be in 5 or 10 years. So it's so funny that we're at this point now, because everything that you're doing are things that we foresaw that you were going to do anyway.
It's crazy.
So my first question for you is, you work at Comcast. Comcast is a very attractive business in Maryland. It discounts on cable, 401k, everything that the college system tells you to chase.
Yeah.
What is it in you that's about you, that's in you, that's about your personality, that's different, that makes you say, I'm going to buck the trend of what college teaches. And I'm going to say, I'm not worried about the 401k. I'm not worried about the job at the corporation that people know about. I'm going to go and thug it out, sometimes for free, in this industry that I have a passion for, and I'm going to build something that may very well outlive me. What led you to want to take that risk? Because college doesn't teach that.
Yeah, man, that's a question I can answer better now than I could ever answer before. Probably within this last year, I've really figured it out. So for me, it was never even really about the money. It was never about any of that. I always get like these elaborate visions in my head that I just have to complete. The reason I dropped out of school, the reason I didn't work out at Comcast is because my car was constantly stuck in the shop. So I'm literally working just to get my car to the shop because I had this vision of what my car needs to look like. So I'm just basically chasing the money that I need to be able to get my car to look the way I want it. And it was basically manifesting the vision that I seen. I didn't really realize what I was doing at that time. So even like leaving Comcast was more of, all right, if I work at shops, I don't know how to do most of the work that I got to pay for right now. And then if I own my own shop, I'll be able to have all the cars. And plus seeing Kevin at Rim Stores didn't help back then. I was like, that's really all I wanted back then was to be able to hook my cars up the way I wanted. So if I have my own shop, I'll be able to do that. Back then I would have told you, it's like, oh no, I always knew I wanted to shop. But the reason I wanted to shop was because of really just, I would always put myself in the financial hole of not being able to get my car to shop and like working and hustling and do whatever I had to do just to get my car to shop.
Got you. One more, Rel, I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, we're gonna bounce back.
So you get into the business, right? And to me, there are a lot of successful shops in Baltimore. I salute them all. Everyone's got their own business structure or whatever. But at one point, you on the 96 Bulls, right? You winning championships, y'all making noise, y'all in the Baltimore Sun every 5 minutes. What is it about you that says after 3 years, like I could coast here, right? Like I'm the next guy up. When people come in, people are coming in and seeing you and not even looking for Kev because you just got the game so locked down or whatever, even though obviously it's his shop. You know, you got a great relationship with Rashad, who's a legend in the game. Once again, what is it about your personality that says, I did great here. I love these people. This is awesome. I'm about to jump out here again. And everything that I built, I started by working for free. I built myself to this point. I'm going back in the trenches again. And I'm going to build my own brand with no brand recognition. I got my name, but my business is not a name that anyone can identify with. What is it about you, once again, that now makes you say, all right, let's blow everything I built up now because now I got to stick to my vision and get where I'm going?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that vision thing I was talking about. So before it was all about building this car that I wanted to build. And then the moment I decided, like, I'm going to open up a shop so I can, I'm going to get to the point where I can open my own shop so I can build my cars, the vision kind of shifted from the cars to, like, the business. And, like, when I started understanding, like, what I could do if I had a business and I could shape it, it was almost like building a car to me. It's like I could build my logo, I could build this, I could build that. So then I painted this vision of, like, this shop that I wanted to make in my head. And after being at Rim Stores, I kind of, honestly, hindsight 2020, I knew that I only needed to be there for a couple years to really learn everything I needed to learn to have my own shop. And I almost think, Rashad could tell you the truth, but I almost think I told Rashad I was only going to be there for 3 years. Me and him had a conversation. And when that 3-year point kind of came around, that vision of my shop was so strong because I had seen everything that Kevin did. And sometimes it's easy when you're in like a big corporation or a company to see something that somebody's doing and like fall in love with that brand and being behind that brand and being a part of that brand. And for me, it was different. Like I seen it and I'm just sitting back in my head. I'm like, man, if this guy can do this, I know I can. Like I'm always telling my friends, it's like, man, it's nothing people can tell me about like what I can do in life. It's not an arrogant or a cocky thing because I understand I might not have the tools to do it, but I 100% believe that if I put my mind to something, I can make it happen. So at that point, with the vision that I had of what my shop could be, on top of the knowledge that I gained from Rim Source, it was like a ticking time bomb for me. It's like, all right, I got to get out of here. Like it was dumb to me to stay. Like me staying was hurting myself more than taking a leap of faith. Like it wasn't even a leap of faith. Like for me, I felt like I was going to be able to do it some way, somehow.
Wow.
Awesome. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Rel. I'll come back later with some of my joints.
Cool. So, we at the part where, you make that transition from Rim Source, to opening up, your own shop. Walk us through that. Walk us through the steps that it took for you to finding the right location, finding the right space, maybe finding a realtor that may be comfortable with working with you, because this your first shop. And you might got expectations like, man, I just came from the 96 Bulls. My shop got to be like equal to where I came from. I ain't trying to be in no rundown, shop where I just can't, because you want to try to make that transition as seamless as possible. You're not trying to go from, a Benz to a hoopty.
That's what I went to.
So let's talk about that. I mean, I know it, but I want you to tell the folks, man, because I think it's important for people to hear this, because they see where you are right now, but they may not know what you had to go through in order to get to that state where you're at currently. So let's talk about that a little bit.
So jumping back to like the whole 96 Bulls thing and like jumping off a train going uphill, Rim Source was definitely I wouldn't say at its prime because it's in the prime right now, but Rim Source was on its way to its prime when I left. And it definitely was hard. It wasn't easy, but I just knew where I wanted to go. So I'm like, I always say, like, I'm super spontaneous type of person. Like, I don't really make too many plans. My plans are pretty much just bigger goals. And I kind of like to let the middle kind of fill itself in. So I literally just picked up the phone one Sunday and called a random realtor and met him. And we looked at a bunch of buildings. And I got to the last building. I was like, this is the one. And I went the Sunday before I met him on Monday and looked at all the buildings he sent me. When I got to the last one, I'm like, this is the one. So the next Monday I meet him. He's like, man, I got bad news. Like, every building on this list is gone except for one. And it's literally the most raggediest one. And I'm just like, dang. So he shows me which one it is. I'm like, oh, well, that's the one I actually liked. So like mine just things a rat's nest, it's tore up, it's all bad. But it didn't matter to me leaving Rim Source where it was at to going to something else because I knew what I could make it. And I knew I had to start small in order to be able to survive. Most people jump into these big situations when they come, especially if you come from a nice company, you want to start your own business, you feel like everything has to be in place. It doesn't. Like it's your knowledge that's going to push this thing forward more than anything else. It's worth more than the building that you're sitting in. And I knew that. I knew as long as I knew everything that I knew from there, just building the way it looked, none of that mattered. So, found the building, sent the application in, and they told me no. Like, straight up no, like, it's not going to happen. Good luck on whatever you got going on. And my realtor, he was like, man, how bad do you want this? I'm like, bad. He's like, all right, well, we're going to war. This guy named Jesse Kellner, he's not in real estate anymore, but he definitely, like, fought for me. He's like, all right, we're going to fight for you for everything we need to do. So, like, my credit was bad at the time. Even though I had all kinds of stuff, man, I was always horrible with money because I was putting all my money into my cars. So we put together like a whole presentation of how we were going to redo the building and all this stuff. And it took, I forget how many months, but I think 4 months. It might have been longer than that to get them to say yeah. And they literally said yeah just because they knew we were going to redecorate the building. It was like, hey, worst case scenario, we put them out. We got a fresh building to release out for double the price. So that's basically how I got into my first shop.
Man, those stuff.
Awesome story.
Was it tough, being a car guy? And us car guys, we at times, we put our whole check into a car and not even think twice. Was it hard weaning off of that, or was it easy because you had a goal in mind that you was going to open up your own shop and you ain't really care about trying to hold up the prestige and mantra that Larry got as far as for his cars?
For me, once I get that vision in my head, none of that stuff really matters. The cars don't matter. I'll stop driving my cars. I'll leave my cars out back in my shop. Like, I don't have really emotional attachment to like the cars, even though I like to build them and stuff like that. It's more the vision that I kind of am more attached to. But it's definitely hard. But I wouldn't even say that I did any of that in the beginning. When I found out like how much I needed to get my shop opened up for the down payment or whatever, of course I didn't have any money in the bank. Like, I was living paycheck to paycheck, working at Rim Source, and I literally just stopped paying all my bills. Like, every bill, car payment, rent, everything. Ended up getting evicted, ended up getting my car repossessed. And it didn't matter to me because I knew that as long as I made this work, like, nothing else from the past was going to matter. Like, it was going to be enough money to take care of all the bills that I had. And I got the shop open. I got my car back. And a year later, I had the next series up car, and I was out of apartment and was living in a townhouse. So definitely, it worked out. I was lucky that it worked out, but it's not hard for me, to answer your question, to kind of put the cars and stuff on the back burner when I'm chasing or building a vision. And that's kind of like the zone that I'm in right now.
Got it. As far as, your first couple years, like, was it ups and downs? You dealing with the ebbs and flows? Was it, I got all the knowledge, I got all the connects, I know the, distributors, the wholesales, I got consumers on the line, and it's just, it's up. Like, how was it?
Oh, year one was beautiful. That was year one. Year one it was up. Like, everything's good. Like, I know everybody. I could make all the calls, set up all my accounts. Nobody questioned me. It was stuff that I could get that I wasn't supposed to get just because I had worked at Rim Source. It was deals I was getting because that I wasn't supposed to get. So year one was easy. And year one is always like full. This industry will fool you because the summertime, the spring and the summer is so up that sometimes you forget the winter is right around the corner. So like, I'm ODing, I'm buying crazy stuff. I'm living a life I've never lived before. And winter of 2015 hit. And that's the first time it got real. I was like, oh, okay. Now I'm seeing all my employees go home with a paycheck, and I'm leaving home with $5. I remember one time I called Kevin, I was like, bro, I got $3, man, to my name. Everybody else ate. And that's when it got real, and I had to like start pulling back and like just being a little more strategic about things. But yeah, it was definitely tough after that first year. And then also when you and the type of business that we're in, that first year being a business is when everybody wants to come try you out, test you out, or come see you because they think you'll give them the best deal and stuff like that. But after that, everybody kind of goes back to their regular scheduled salesperson, whoever they normally deal with. But it all leveled out though.
How did you push through those those tough moments?
Man, I don't know, man. God blessed me with grit, man. Like that's probably one of my biggest characteristics is just having the grit to kind of like just keep going. Like I don't let like money situations. I don't let being in a bad spot. I don't let none of that kind of get to me. I kind of shrug it all off and just keep going. As long as I keep going, everything else will catch up.
Anything, Jay? Toss it back to you.
Yeah. So how is it, Larry? So okay, you start the shop, you jump out there, you got a passion for cars, right? But historically, what I've learned of people that have passions for cars, nothing will override that. Like it'll be like you said, they work, they eat, they do everything. But I'm starting to see in the car world, whether it be Rel, whether it be yourself, this new trend of people that have this undying love for cars, and they end up finding a way to monetize that love. And I'm starting to feel like the wave that's coming is that you're going to find more people that still love cars, still want to fix up their cars, all of that, but they're starting more car-related businesses. So yeah, I want to enter shows or I want to get certain love, but I want something that's going to last even longer than my career as somebody with a hard car. Is that something that you're seeing? Do you think that, you guys are one of a kind where, yeah, you still love the cars, but you love the business aspect as well? Or are you seeing more people that love cars looking to find ways to monetize it in that space?
Yeah, I definitely see the wave kind of changing a little bit. I think at first, like opening up a shop, having a shop, you were a person that was passionate about cars, and like a shop was big. Like it's big. Like it's not a small feat. So for most people back then, that was it. Like if you got your shop, you were on top of the world. There was nothing else to go to. But now with the internet and so much other stuff, like it's really teaching us that being able to hook up a car, do all that, at the end of the day, it's all art. And most artists, your canvas can change and you're still going to have all the same abilities to kind of like paint the same picture. So whether it be the car or it be a business, once you realize that it's all just a canvas and you're just putting your art on it, it's kind of easy to kind of like shift gears and jump into like the business and look at it the same way you look at a car. I think it's just now people see it's possible. Where before people didn't really believe that it was possible. The shop was the end all be all. And I think that's like one of the things that I like really look forward to doing in like the next couple years is like pushing the limits to what's possible for somebody that started as just being passionate about hooking their car.
Makes sense. Okay, so now you're a shop owner. What I hear, well, first off, what I've always heard every time you've ever uttered Kevin's name was love and respect, right? So, and I respect you for giving people that create the waves he's created in this space that flowers. But some people would say, yeah, you played for the Steelers, now you play for the Ravens.
Yeah.
So how do you manage the fact that, because what I hear from you, some would assume, well, ain't RimSource your competition? Why do you still have a relationship with Kevin? You know, why? Like, I feel from your personality that you can respect any shop or any business in the space. And I think a lot of businesses don't last because they try to bring a car club kind of culture into that space where it becomes my shop is like this club and I've got my client base and I can't respect the work of another shop because that means I'm diminishing my own. What is it about you that allows you to navigate that and not get caught into that mix of my shop against this man's shop against that man's shop, which really, in my opinion, waters things down?
I think because I'm gonna tell you the honest truth is I genuinely understand and see with my own two eyes the difference between RimSource and every other shop pretty much in this world. So when it came to competition and just anything like that, it was never anybody ever close, like at all. So for anybody to even try to be in competition with that man, like, bro, he's the greatest to ever walk this earth and have a rim shop. He should be celebrated way beyond what he's celebrated right now. And one day he will. Like his time's not here yet. Like, yeah, everybody sees the cars, that stuff that he does, but his time's not here yet. Like, he's gonna get celebrated, bro. He's one of the greatest black businessmen that I've ever seen in my life. So for me, it was never a competition because I can't compete with Kevin. Like, and then it got to a point where it was like, all right, like now it's like, all right, me and Kevin are cool. Like, what's the point of me really having a shop and trying to build to RimSource has? Because at the end of the day, if something ever happened to my shop, I know I could go back and work at RimSource. We would be cool. We would work. So it's like, all right, why am I trying to build a shop as big as RimSource? He already has RimSource. Why not shoot for something bigger? So that was my thing. It's like, all right, I'm gonna leave the shop world and try to build something bigger because RimSource is there. So it was almost like building two of the same things or trying to chase his legacy, which is like, man, it's shoes nobody could ever step in.
Smart. So before I toss it to Rel, the other thing that I subtly hear in what you talk about is the ability to pivot. Because I want to kind of transition, and I'll let Rel talk about year 2 and 3. But what I'm hearing in what you're saying is that your mind is constantly thinking not just the future of a shop, brick and mortar space, but your vision and brand. And it sounds like you're always thinking like, okay, I might be making money now and things are going well. What's the next play? And then what's the next play? And I think from an entrepreneurial perspective, money sometimes makes us careless because you start doing well, you start getting money, you start eating good, you lose your creativity because there's a ton of creativity when you're trying to get on because the thought process is financially you aren't where you want to be. Like you talked about, when you go from, losing things, credit messed up to now the credit's fixed, I got a new series whip, townhouse, everything in that would say, now it's time to be complacent. Do you feel like the reason why business owners can't transition to that next step is that they're falling in love with exactly where they are in the moment? Or do you think sometimes there are other factors that can attribute to that?
I think other factors that can contribute to it. I think it's your environment and the people you're around. So most people that get to the position of like having a shop or being a business owner, normally in your circle of friends, you're going to be like the top guy. And some people fall in love with being the top guy and like comfortable in that space. I've never kind of been comfortable in the space of being the top guy. Like as soon as I feel like I'm getting there, like I'm looking for somebody to kind of attach myself to who's doing way better than me. And I'm always like looking up. Some people get to that peak and start looking down at everybody below them and trying to keep people below them instead of looking up and trying to see who they can pull themselves up to be closer to. So for me, that's what helped me out. It's just make sure I was always like learning more and looking up and trying to figure out how I can do better. It's like every time I took a step up and thought I was doing great in life, you got to think, getting in the shop was my dream, man. Like it was literally a point where I'm sitting in my shop and I'm just like, dag, like this is it. Like I didn't think any further past this, and I had to like find a new goal to go and chase. But I think some people get caught in the light of being the man, and it's very, very confusing. It definitely like drag you in and like make you feel like you are on top of the world. And you got to kind of like fight that battle through that and know like there's somebody out here doing better than you. And then Jay, it's not always a bad thing. Like some people are cool with being, and I'm learning this now because I'm like the guy that's always pushing all my friends and pushing everybody.
Right.
I'm like, man, why are you still at your job? Jump off the cliff. Like, what are you waiting for? But I had to understand like everybody's not built for it. Everybody doesn't have the grit for it. So like sometimes it's cool for people to get in that zone and they want to stay there. But for me, that was never my thing. I always wanted to like just keep going forward and building more. I really got to the point where I believe that I can do anything I put my mind to, even if I don't have the tools. Like I might not have the tools to do it, but I can find them, find the right people, bring the right team together to make it happen.
Man, I say from the time knowing you, from day one, man, until now, it always was, a positive mind frame. You always was, thinking about the next level. Man, you're motivated by something that's driving you to continue to push the bar. Obviously at first it was to get into the industry, the automotive industry. Then it was to, to master it. You mastered it. Then it was to open up your shop. Now you're what, 8 years in business?
7.5, almost 8.
Almost 8 years in business, man. I'm sure it changed. What is it now that continues to motivate you to get to, the next level and to continue to push to the next level? And if you can drop any hints, I mean, a businessman never unfolds all his plans or unveils all his plans, but if you can also drop any hints to, what is it that you're striving for? What does that next level look like for Larry?
Man, it's hard. I mean, to answer the first question, like the motivation behind it, it's hard to say what my motivation is now. I feel like my motivation is just the vision that I can see right now and like bringing that to fruition. But for me, like the next level is really like building something that forever changes the way that the automotive aftermarket landscape is, just the whole frame of it, like building something that just changes the whole frame of it. That's where I'm at now. Like I really don't even want to work on anything unless it's that. I've worked to get myself out of my shop just so I could focus my energy on building something that's just really great, like a 0 to 1 company, something people's never seen before, that just fixes some of the issues that I see in the industry and almost kind of standardizes the industry across the board.
More so of like and leaning more towards innovation within the industry.
Yeah.
Something.
So what we're working on basically is there's like this myth in this industry that the direct to consumer, like companies like Amazon, Car ID, custom offsets, like that they run this industry and that they are really the powerhouse of this industry. But the truth and the numbers say opposite. Shops run the industry. So 75% of people purchase their wheels and tires from shops.
Yeah.
And it's been going up. It was like 68% or 67% a couple years ago. So to the outside eye, they look at it and they think, oh, direct to consumer is going to win everything. Car ID is going to put shops out of business. But really, the shops are winning. The problem is that Car ID, the custom offsets, they purchase from a larger channel. Where all of these shops are all pretty much mom and pops, independent shops. So how many shops do you know in Baltimore that are franchised? Like as far as like wheel and tire shops? All right, in the world, there's probably 4 franchise systems, maybe 5 franchise systems that actually sell wheels and tires. So the majority of the freaking 75% of shops, which is close to 100,000, I don't know the exact numbers right in front of me, shops that are out here buying from individual channels. So there's no purchasing power on the shop side. Where these other companies, these direct-to-consumer companies, they only control 25% of the market, but they have larger market share. So they have a whole lot more purchasing power than one individual shop. So basically all we're doing is taking and building a platform that allows all the shops to be able to purchase their wheels and tires from one place and pull all that purchasing power and funnel it together and pull our power back from these direct-to-consumer sites and put it in the power, or put the power in the people's hands who really make a difference, which are the shops.
Man, I didn't. I mean, obviously, I'm not in the industry, and I hardly even buy aftermarket stuff anymore. But you know what I do? I either hit you up or I hit up the source. Do people really outside of eBay? People use car ID and like that? Really?
Yeah, man. Like those they definitely they handle about 25% of the market. And you got to figure it's 10 to 15 companies handling 25% of the market. So they got larger channels, where if you look at the other 75% of the market, it's 30,000 to 100,000 shops that are handling that 75%. So of course it's going to be a whole lot smaller of a chunk that these shops get. So by us being able to funnel all that, we can kind of change the landscape of everything.
Yeah. Going back to the first couple years in business, were there any moments, as positive as you are, as motivated and highly driven, to reach your goals and manifest your visions? Were there any moments where you felt like, man, I don't know if I made the right decision? None.
Nah. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because by the time a decision is made for me, it's like I'm already like looking towards something else in the future. So like whatever decision I made, it's like the past is the past. Like no matter. I always I told my wife all the time, I was like, my shop could burn down to the ground tomorrow. I will wake up with a smile on my face because it's like a fresh day to start something new. So yeah, the decisions in the past don't really bother me too much.
Where did you get that thought process from? Like, the average person doesn't think like that, right? Like,
I honestly don't know, man. Yeah. And trust me, I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, I mean, is this just was this something you learned over the years, or do you think this is just like a part of your characteristic?
Like, I think it's part of my characteristic. I mean, I met one of my good friends, Pat the Rock Robinson. Like, he was the guy that kind of like taught me about like being your own person and like business and all that stuff. He played for AM1, but he always like had his own like business and brand outside of that. So he always taught me to like have my own personal brand. He's the reason I always took Facebook and Instagram and everything like that serious, even before anybody else took it serious, as like a marketing tool, or like as far as like painting the picture of your brand. But outside of that, like, I don't know, man. I think I've just dealt with so much failure in my life. Of course, everybody always sees like the glowing wins and everything, but nobody really sees the sacrifices, the times I failed. But I'm definitely like a sum of all of my failures. So just some of the early failures that I've had in life have kind of like just made me bulletproof to failing. Like, I don't really failing. I don't think about it. Like, I don't even look at it as failing. It's just learning a lesson.
So Larry, transitioning slightly back a little bit. You talked about your innovative idea, whatever. We're not going to rehash that because that's your personal idea. But what I want to say to the audience about that, and then transition to a question for Larry, is first off, you got to be built a certain way as an entrepreneur to decide that you're going to buckle down and go with the big boys. And I respect that because that's the mentality that I have. That's the mentality that Rel has. And the core of entrepreneurship is finding a problem and creating the solution. And that's what I see that idea as. But I want the audience to understand that before you think you can get into that kind of space, you got to jump off the porch and feel what it's really like in the trenches yourself. And I say that because you can watch a ton of business shows, you can read a ton of business books, But until you're in the trenches, until to the point of there was something that we kind of glossed over, but it was very big, where Larry talked about having $3 left after all of his employees were paid. And the core that I wanted to make sure that you understood was he did whatever needed to be done as a business owner to ensure that all of his employees were paid. And that's what entrepreneurship is. So before you can get to that point, like you have to know what it feels like. Now, transitioning into from a question perspective, to me, from what I see, and you tell me if you see yourself like this, I kind of feel like you have a mentality, like almost like, yo, I'm gonna jump off of this mountain, and I'm gonna figure the parachute out on the way down. And I'm gonna attack it and not be fearful, because the thing about business owners is once they build something, I mean, I'm sure obviously you talked about someone else you know that has a brand, and I know who Pat the Rock is. When you build a brand, it becomes a baby for certain people. Like you fall in love with it. And I tell Rel all the time, my phrase has always been, I'm never married to an idea or a business. Like I can walk away from it at any time. My question to you is that with this innovation that you're creating, once you pull this off, because if there's anybody I believe that can go at it and pull it off, is you. What in the, excuse my language, what in the hell is going to be the goal after that? Because I don't know. Like, if you take the big boys down, I don't really know what's left for you to do, and you ain't old. So what's going to be the goal then?
Man, it's funny. I had this conversation with one of my business partners that, like, sometimes I get so like vision heavy on what we're building right now, and he was just like, man, like, I know we talk about this business and we get so deep into it, but he was like, man, it's going to be more out here for you to do. Like, he's like, you not even scratching the surface. So hearing you say that, it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I got ideas. I have ideas of like what I want to do once it gets to a specific point that I really won't talk about right now. But yeah, I know it's gonna be something. Like I'm the type of person, I'm always gonna be working towards something. But yeah, and when we pull off what we about to pull off, man, it's gonna be crazy.
I love that, man, and I would say my next question for you is, first off, thank you for coming on our platform. But you know, when you have the time, if you can, and you know, I see a vision in your future at some point for you having a platform, because there's something innate in you, and I feel it in myself. Rel has that characteristic, and I know a lot of different entrepreneurs that have it, that has to be bottled up and passed around to people, because the purpose of the reason why we created this platform, Larry, is because we wanted to dispel certain internet myths about business, right? Because entrepreneurship, which is one of the hardest things in the world to do, has now become like this super easy thing. Like I can buy a Maybach tomorrow, you know, put on a Gucci belt, a nice tailored Dior suit, and come out and tell you for $19.99 a month, you can be a capo too, and build a brand and do all this and that. But those in the trenches understand that it's a lot of time. It's a lot of man hours. You talked about the conversation with your wife. I got so much love for that, because I'm married to somebody that if I needed to blow it all up tomorrow and go to war with something else, she would be like, yo, that's what we got to do, right? It's so much that goes into it. For you, do you see yourself ever getting into a space where one day maybe telling your story on a larger scale as a means of showing people how, like, nah, yeah, I may be wealthy now, you know that what I've created in this space, but I came from here, walked away from Comcast. I'm in shops doing stuff for free as a college graduate, which most college graduates would say that's beneath me. And I did all of that. Oh, college dropout, right? Like most people would say that I'm too good for that. Do you ever see yourself sharing your story on a larger scale?
Yeah, but I'm really selective on like where I like tell my story and like how much I tell it now. Like Rel is one of the people that I like really jump on if you ask me to. And the reason for that is because my story is constantly changing because hindsight is 2020. So I start to understand a little bit more about my past as I move forward into the future. Like even now, this interview is probably a little different from an interview before. But the reason for that is because I really have an idea and a vision for where I want to be in life and what I want to show people that's possible. And I can't even teach you how to get to where I'm trying to get to yet because I haven't got there and I haven't quite figured it out yet. So it's one of those things where, yeah, I definitely plan to like stop and kind of like preach the gospels of like how to get to where I'm trying to get to. But right now I feel what's the right word? I just don't feel like the time is now for me to really say or try to tell somebody how to do anything until I really get to where I'm trying to be. And I could be wrong. Like I definitely could be wrong because it's so much that I could teach people about like just being in business and all the downfalls and stuff that I've been through. But there's a certain point in my story I want to complete before I really, when I reach my hand back out to tell people how to do stuff, I want to go back and explain to people how to build these great businesses, these Ubers, these Facebooks, these DoorDashes, these huge startup companies in a space that we really don't even have the access to learn, to even know what a startup company is and really understand what goes into it and how it's built. So until I really have grasped the understanding of that and built that myself, that's what I want to come back and teach people. It's like, look, man, there's a different form of entrepreneurship out here that we are almost systematically held away from up until now, where now they're kind of pushing it for like the African-American founder of startups. And they have all these initiatives for this bank is giving 500 million or 50 million. And the issue is that we were just never taught the things that we need to even do to be in position to be able to get that money. There's a figure out here, I think, out of like African-American startup founders and startup businesses are basically just, if for the people who don't know, it's just really like coming together with a group of folks and building a business as a package where you can sell pieces of this business to institutionalized funding organizations for capital to build this business into something big. So, and there's way more into it, but that's just the easy definition of it. But like I said, we just weren't taught all the right things to be able to package our business and package our ideas and our intellectual properties in a way to be able to do that. So when I reach my hand back down, that's what I want to show people. Like it's a completely different route out here for building businesses that we've been held out of. And now is the time that they're opening the door for us. So we need to shift our education on what businesses look like and what businesses can be so that we can take advantage of those initiatives.
I appreciate you even saying that, Larry. To be honest with you, man, none of us are responsible or entitled to say anything. So your willingness to even at any point in your journey share where it is. But I just see that there are a lot more of us than it's every now and then you're going to get, your person that their social media following takes off and they become a star within the business sector. But I know so many people that are super successful in business that are millionaires that you would have absolutely no idea that they are. Yeah. So you even being willing at some point in time to share that is awesome, man. And your growth to this point has been amazing. Rel, I'm gonna toss it over to you, man, to get your thoughts before we close stuff out.
Yeah, first and foremost, man, I definitely want to say big salute to you, Larry. Proud of you, bro.
Thank you, bro.
Proud of you, man. From knowing you, for a little over a decade, everything you talked about, bro, was always high level. You always did it with respect. You always did it with integrity. And you always followed through your words, no matter what. So big salute on that. Also want to throw in, I definitely understand where you're coming from as far as, you don't want to put yourself out there too much as of yet, because, you have this pinnacle that you want to reach before you do so. But there are a lot of people who will trade knowledge with you with where you are right now.
Yeah.
And where you are right now is their pinnacle. So definitely keep that in mind as well. Even if you, I mean, I don't know if you do this already. If even if you document and maybe not release it, because oftentimes when people see you at when they see Larry at the billionaire status, they're not gonna say, "Man, Larry ain't working no Comcast." Nah, I'm not going for that. I'm not going for that. He always had money. He always was around money, and
that's what they think.
That's what they think. But with like as far as me, I'm not near the level that I know that I want to be at in order to reach down and tell people, yo, this is what you do to scale this business properly, and then you invest here and then you invest there, and boom, you got a whole empire. I'm not there yet as well. But I do have the vision similar to you. Like, yo, I'm going to get there. The proper planning, and also, over the course of time, I'm going to get there to a level where I'm at a massive level of success. And then I can have that validation to be able to talk that talk. But to dispel any myths, I got documentation of my growth.
Yeah.
So if I was to leave you just with one gem, because I know you're going to get there, Larry. I already know you're going to get there. Start documenting some little pieces, man, just to keep in the cut. When you roll out that bottom, man, they can be like, yo, yeah, Larry was in the trenches, man. He really was from the bottom down here.
And I think to your point, bro, before Larry take over, I gotta say, now that you said that, it makes me think of, I'm a big sports guy, reading that when they shot The Last Dance, then Mike Jordan and them was like, man, I'm still trying to win. I'm trying to see if I'm gonna go to another team and keep playing. I'm not thinking about that. And somebody was like, yo, you gotta chronicle it, because at some point, someone's gonna want to see what led to the end of this dynasty. And obviously, we talked about it in more of a positive context. But the one thing I did want to add to what Rel said, which makes sense, is that what I'm learning in business is you'll be surprised from an entrepreneurial perspective how many people look up to where you are right now as opposed to where you're going.
Yeah.
Like where we may be right now, for some people, is their pinnacle.
Yeah.
So to them, it's like, I've had so many conversations with people that's like, man, where you trying to go, I'm not even anywhere near there.
Can't even fathom.
Can we talk about where you are today? Because if I can get there, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of sort of what led us to talk. And so I agree with Rel, even if you don't release it, chronicle some of that stuff, man, because when you are able to tell your story for us, we're blessed to have seen where you're going, and I'll admit this. I want to leave you with this. My guy Rel always talked behind your back, and it was always 100% positive. I would get a text message, yo, jump on IG. Yo, I told you, Larry moving. And I'm like, man, yo, you ain't said Larry's name in 3 months. He's like, yo, I'm telling you. Like, and then I jump on social, and I'm like, damn, I remember he said that in a passing conversation 3 years ago. So clearly, to his point, you done provided enough proof of concept to me that I know where you're going at. So chronicle some of that stuff, man. So at least, even if you keep it for yourself or for your wife and your family.
Yeah, my wife tells me that too. I got some other partners that tell me to start documenting stuff. So I'm gonna listen to you guys.
Man, I can't wait to see how it's gonna play out for you, Larry. I know it's gonna be great. I'm going to be one of those people that's like, yo, I've been championing.
Yeah.
And just jump on the bandwagon. Look, we got interviews from back in the day, 2010, 2011.
Listen, I'm a be bandwagon. I'm telling you now, I'm a bandwagon. Yo, Rel was to it first, but he had told me. So I was kind of there early in on it. I know who it is. If I wave at Joe in the street, he might know me.
Wow, come on, man. I'm going to know you. Don't do that. Look, man, I'm always be Larry. That's one thing about me. Like, there's no Hollywood.
Yeah.
Likewise. Likewise. Same, man. But I appreciate your mission, man. And we on the same one, man. And it inspires me to talk to someone else with similar goals.
Nah, man, it's hard, man. Like I find myself in a position now where the things that I talk about, or like the business aspects that I have, can be so, the knowledge has been hidden from us for so long that when I talk to some of my friends or people around me, it's almost like I'm speaking a completely different language. The aspirations that I have, I had to learn the hard way that sometimes me talking about the things that I want to achieve can come off as like arrogance or bragging, but it's really not that. Like, it's just, that's really where I want to be, like, and I'm really striving for it. So it definitely gets harder the further you go up, and like the more you start to learn, and the more you start to achieve, and the more you start to aim higher. It definitely makes things tougher around you, but that's part of the game.
Yeah, and I'll say, Larry, that I think because I've gone through some of that in my own journey, and I'm sure Rel would agree. Sometimes the ears that hear some of the ideas or thoughts that we have, they're not there, and it's not like, it's not a lack of love or any of that. It's just sometimes it's something innate in us that's big. You know, Rel will tell you for years we had to learn that we may have certain conversations amongst each other, because we started to see relationships become frayed. People start to feel differently because it's not about bragging or any of that. It's basically saying, this is what the mission is. But when you speak to folks who their mentality isn't there, to your point, you're right. It comes across as arrogance. And I think what I've learned to do a little bit better is to kind of educate people on why my mission is going somewhere before I start talking to them about the mission. Because without that context, we live in a generation of flexing, right? So any and everything you do, you could buy a new car for you and your wife, and it can be perceived as, oh, Larry trying to say he getting more money than me. So on everything we do, you fix your kitchen, you buy a dog, everything is considered a flex, right? So it's adding context, at least to the people that we love, to say, yo, this is the mission that I'm on. I'm not here to alienate you. I'm just telling you my mission. And a lot of times, once people realize, like, oh, now I see the angle that they're coming from, they can start to soak up some of that game a little bit better. But we live in this world now where it's, hey, yo, is Larry trying to flex on me, yo? Because if Larry trying to flex on me, I don't know. Like, and then you lose the whole message that's being delivered.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's where it's at.
Hey,
All
Larry,
Great
before we close this thing out, man, you know, I want you to just give the audience, you know, people who are watching on live right now, those who's watching the replay, any tips, any wisdom, any guidance, any kind of nuggets, gems, or whatever the case might be for somebody out there that's, you know, maybe looking to become a business owner, entrepreneur, or, you know, in the beginning stages, and, you know, maybe they got $3 in that bank account and they don't know. Or you know, just looking to make a way out of nothing, looking to get to the next level. You know, what you got for them? What kind of message would you say to the people that's maybe in those type of scenarios?
So I'm gonna start with this: is anything is possible. I don't care what dream you have, what goal you have, what ambition you have. It's possible as long as you believe you can do it. You can make it happen. You can manifest it. It's as long as you believe it and you work towards it. It's almost impossible for it not to happen, unless just plain old, to keep it frank, is insanity. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. But as long as you're learning from the mistakes and the failures that you have along the way, whatever you're building, whatever you believe in, is going to happen. The things that hold people back are when it's okay to be foolishly confident in the beginning and really believe you understand what you're doing and think you know it all. So, because the foolish confidence is what kind of pushes you forward to actually jump off the cliff. But the biggest key is not letting that confidence outweigh your competence. So being able to actually back up everything that you talk, and knowing that you have the ability and believing that you have the ability to get done whatever you want to get done and get to wherever you want to get to, but knowing that you have to go out here and find the right tools to help you get there. You might be able to do it, but there's a 99.9% chance that you don't have all of the right tools to get it done, and you don't have all the right people around you to get it done. So if you can show humility enough to say, okay, I know I can do it, but I need to get in front of this person, get this person, or read this book, or go to this workshop, so I can do it. If you come at anything that you want to achieve with that mindset, you're going to win.
Great message. Great message. Jay, anything before we close out?
Nah, man, Larry, just thanks for coming on, my guy. We're going to keep following your journey. Thanks for even sharing even a smidgen of your idea with us, because you ain't had to do that, and I don't take that kind of stuff for granted. We appreciate you, man. Keep grinding, and you got the full support of our platform. I'm going to speak full rel.
Yep.
And anything that we can do to support in your journey, we here, man. We want to see you win in every way, and if you win, we win.
Yeah, 100.
Big time. And there you have it, guys. This has been another classic episode of Network Is My Network, man. Look, y'all see it. Larry Spriggs. Make sure y'all go follow him on Instagram.
ASAP.
Just keep him in the back of your mind, man, because he's going to be, I already see it, the next generation Bezos type, Zuckerberg type, man, because he got some big things coming. Even though he only dropped the smidgets, I know where he came from to where he's going now, and I know his vision is just like super, super, super crazy. So, again, we appreciate you for dropping by, dropping those gems, and blessing our podcast with your presence, man. It means a lot to us. So with that further ado, we out. We see y'all next week, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Later.
Salute.